We also want to point out, we talked earlier about the group called the Palestinian Front for the Liberation of Palestine. On Abu Dhabi TV, that group has taken responsibility for these explosions against the World Trade Center. If they are right, if that is true, and it has not yet been confirmed, it would be their first attack against the United States. We mentioned that they have at times been at odds with Osama bin Laden on that philosophical point in particular. It appears that they have changed that. This would be, if it is confirmed later that they were responsible, this would be their first attack against the United States.
In terms of the realm of terrorism, this is going to be a real first test, literally by fire, for the Bush administration. You recall, after the embassy bombings in East Africa, the Clinton administration waited about 10 days and launched a missile attack against the camps of Osama bin Laden, who they felt confident at that time they could say was responsible for it, and who's since been charged in it. In this case, I think this ratchets up.
Excuse me. This is the Pentagon we're looking at now, according to my monitor. And again, it is hard to grasp what part of the building. We do not know if they're in the courtyard or outside, but you can see that a fairly considerable amount of damage has been done.
The Associated Press lead just came out of New York. But first of all, let's check in with Dave Staddard at the Pentagon. Dave?
It collapsed right now. As you can see, I assume you're taking our picture. I do not have a monitor. But right now, we just had a middle section here of the E-ring of the Pentagon collapse from the amount of fire and destruction from this. So obviously, there was a great deal of damage here. It just collapsed. We don't know who is inside or how many people are inside. You heard somebody, one of the people who was inside the building, talked to us a short time ago and said this E-ring of the Pentagon has a great many senior officials. So if somebody was planning something, this might have been the place if they wanted to get senior officials.
They don't want any aircraft flying anywhere in the United States if they can keep from it at this moment. And here's the reason. Reports of all kinds are flying around, but there is one report that another aircraft has been hijacked in the eastern corridor.
CNN is now reporting that there was a third explosion at the World Trade Center, probably an explosion from the ground that caused World Trade Center 1 to collapse on top of itself. Again, there was a third explosion. It's unclear what caused it, whether it was a bomb or whether the first plane that crashed into the tower had somehow been booby-trapped with a bomb that was timed to explode later after the crash had occurred. But CNN is reporting that there was a third explosion that caused World Trade Center 1 to collapse within itself and then collapse on other surrounding buildings.
Can you talk to us for a second? Jesus, just, huh?
I saw Trade Center down.
Well, tell me what you saw.
All right, I was coming down 6th Avenue, running down to meet this truck.
Pat Muskoff,
Fox
News engineer. Go ahead, go ahead.
I'm coming down 6th Avenue. All the people traffic was running up.
You can see the second plane coming in from the right side of your screen, going into the tower itself. This is an extraordinary and troubling piece of tape.
And I'm standing next to a fireman. He said, yeah, they just bombed the Pentagon, too.
We're going to break away briefly from our national coverage in New York to bring you news from here in Washington on these events.
As you can see, Megan McGrath is live at the Pentagon from Columbia Pike, very near the Pentagon. Megan, what can you tell us about the latest happening there?
Joe, I can't hear you. I'm assuming that you can hear and see me at this point.
It was amazing, but very upsetting to watch the whole thing come tumbling down. So we all thought it was another explosion, and we looked up. Instead of being two, there's one.
Just an unbelievable scene here. It's almost difficult to describe what's going on here. It's unbelievable.
The Associated Press now, in a flash, quoting the Associated Press, one World Trade Center tower has collapsed. Period. And let's pause for a moment because given the photographs, the live pictures we have, it's very difficult to confirm that report that a whole tower has collapsed. We're going to stick with the moment, for the moment, with the report that a portion of one of the World Trade Center towers has collapsed. Perhaps that's what the Associated Press means.
And then I looked up and I saw this huge plume of smoke and the tower just crumbling, and it just turned into a huge plume of smoke. And next thing you know, there's smoke in one tower, and that's what we're seeing right here. So, and obviously there's people are worried about the press agents and everybody else that went the other way as everybody else went this way.
When you saw this collapse taking place, could you see if there were a lot of people on the ground near the building as it was happening?
No, I was further north than you were, but I was dead looking at 6th Avenue, the view you see of both towers as you come down 6th Avenue.
Right.
So, and then most of this fallout stops about 4 blocks back.
Give him a look down this way, Pat. You know, it does sort of look like beyond a few blocks down, it looks almost clear.
I'm very nervous. I would pray to God that, you know, they wouldn't bring down these residential buildings that I live in. But I couldn't imagine the damage that those buildings have done, that dropping the World Trade Center has done. I'm still wondering what brought that building down.
Well, our reports are that a hijacked plane, a plane that was hijacked.
A third plane brought that one down?
No, the second one was a collapse of the building, and that might have been structural because of all the damage incurred by the explosion, by the plane crashing into it.
But it's anything but over here.
I live at 25 Lawrence Street, a couple of blocks from here. I'm all the time hanging out in the corner on the liquor store this morning. I saw the plane coming this way in the spot. It was factory directly to the building.
Was this the first plane or the second plane?
This was the first plane. The second plane, no second plane. It was a bomb. Bombed another building, not second plane. That was a bomb. Who said the second plane?
That's what we're told, the second plane. We saw it on television.
I saw everything.
All right. Thanks a lot.
We have on the phone a pilot who witnessed these planes crashing in to the World Trade Center. Sir, can you tell me your name? John, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
John, tell me what you saw.
This morning we were at Midtown Manhattan in a 31st floor of a building facing south. We saw a 767 flying low down the center of Manhattan Island heading towards downtown Manhattan. At about maybe 20 blocks north of the World Trade Center, we saw the plane veer to the left and fly directly into the north side of the South Tower.
So this was the second plane that hit the tower, correct?
No, this was the first plane.
Got it.
This was the 767.
Got it. John, hang on.
But you know, it's interesting here to reflect about the timing of this, what appears to be a terrorist attack. It comes just a few weeks before there was supposed to be a major world gathering of Jewish leaders on the 23rd of September that was supposed to be bringing in people from all around the country and around the world to voice support for Israel in its battles with the Palestinians. In fact, all of the Israeli leaders were expected to attend, and it was expected to try to send a message to the United Nations, which has its opening session at that time, that Israel needed support. Also, there is another event the week after that. The United Monetary Fund is going to be meeting in Washington, and that was also expected to draw protesters from all around the world. In fact, so many protesters that Washington police officials had started building walls around various Washington monuments in an attempt to protect the monuments, Capitol buildings, and others from a possibility that there could be disruption.
There is some talk that there is a possibility now of the second tower also crashing to the ground because the two towers apparently were interdependent on each other for stability. So eyes are focused now on this tower. Hopes are that it will stay intact, but we are not certain yet.
They moved people back about 6 blocks, that people were running out of the smoke, and you couldn't see anything. The entire street was filled with smoke, and then followed by debris flying. There's the street right now is just littered with shoes, as people literally ran out of their shoes to escape the smoke and debris.
And then shortly after that, another plane. We actually witnessed the plane coming up the East River, and it seemed to be getting dangerously close to World Trade, and we thought that it was going to hit, and it did in fact hit. We saw the explosion and all of the debris flowing down toward the lower Manhattan there, and it's just incredible how.
We are on Columbia Pike. If you take a look behind my shoulder, you can see the south side of the Pentagon. Actually, just moments before this happened, after the World Trade Center incident, we were headed from a different location to National Airport. We were on 395 when all of a sudden we heard a boom and we saw this huge fireball rise from the Pentagon. We knew immediately that something terribly wrong had happened.
The Pentagon is full of many thousands of people every day. The Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld has been saying only yesterday and today that he wants to reduce the bloatedness, as he put it, as he alluded to it, in the military and the bureaucracy. But this is the great home of the military bureaucratic establishment.
Now you have a gaping hole on the west side of the Pentagon here at Washington Boulevard, and this collapse just happened. It was not an explosion, a secondary explosion. This apparently the damage from the great deal of fire and the structural damage from the plane crash.
One gentleman described in horror how he saw people jumping out in their suits with their ties flying from the very high floors of the World Trade Center, falling to the ground to their death.
Smoke, flames, it was just a real mess, very, very shocking. And of course people were running around. The Navy Annex is located nearby. There was all kinds of smoke in the area. People were very, very confused. There was a construction crew nearby. They didn't understand what happened, and people were just running toward the scene, trying to see if they could be of any assistance, trying to figure out what happened.
What we were doing when the explosion happened was shooting pieces of the plane. There are pieces of the plane on Church Street, which has now become a crime scene. And we did also there see remnants of people's clothing, as we said before, some shoes, and large pieces of what looked to be pieces of fuselage. And this, amazingly, was about 3 blocks away from the scene. To have these pieces of the plane and the debris fall all the way on Church Street from the World Trade Center.
You say that you saw a plane actually strike the side of the Pentagon. Tell me exactly what you saw.
I saw a plane going down, big plane, commercial liner type, going down full speed and just inside the side of the Pentagon. Obviously, it was going in the Pentagon purposely.
Any word yet, Dave, on casualties?
Other than seeing the 2 people we saw medevaced who had serious burns, I can't confirm any others. They've been working on people, but we don't know what's inside that building, to be honest with you.
So
certainly anybody in those windows or in those offices by those windows, you have to be very, very concerned about right now.
And we were driving down Columbia Pike, and it just flew right over us, as I said, full speed. And I told my husband, it's going in the Pentagon, it's going in the Pentagon. And then we heard the huge crash, saw this fireball, and flame and smoke and...
So you actually saw the plane impact the side of the building?
Yes, I did.
Just one plane?
Just one plane.
We have Daniel McAdams on the phone. He is an eyewitness. Daniel, good morning. What did you see and where are you?
I'm here in Arlington, just off of Columbia Pike, probably about 2.5 miles from the Pentagon. And we were sitting in our living room having coffee, and it sounded like a military jet flyover that they do sometimes, you know, a very, very low altitude flyover. And then just a couple of seconds later, we heard a massive boom. All of our doors and windows shook. We went outside, looked out the window, and then saw a plume of smoke.
All right, Daniel, thank you very much.
I didn't see any marking because it was, we just saw the underneath portion of it. So, and it just, as I said, was going full speed. So we didn't have time really to see anything. Plus with the trees, you know, maybe if I could have looked at it longer, maybe I would have seen something. But with the trees there, the trees line, we didn't see any type of marking. But it was a big plane, maybe 737. My husband said 747, but I'm not positive. I don't know for sure.
So let's go back to Dave Statter. Dave, what do you have?
I know, Stat, hey, they're evacuating us now. They believe another plane. This could be a rumor, but they're evacuating everybody. Possibility of another plane coming in this direction. Certainly, but this is a major evacuation at the moment. Again, it could all be rumor, but FBI is evacuating everybody out of this area. I've got to go at the moment because they won't let me stay here.
Be safe, be safe. And we heard from Frank Herzog that boom that Dave thought he heard before was Air Force jets scrambling high up in the sky on alert. If there is something else coming in, we hope they get it first.
CNN is now, believe it or not, reporting an explosion on Capitol Hill. Fortunately, the explosion happened after Capitol Police had started to evacuate the Capitol. We don't know if any of the senators or representatives were still in the building when the explosion happened, but there is another explosion. That makes 2 explosions and a fire in Washington. An explosion at the Pentagon that we've confirmed was caused by a plane. An explosion at the Capitol, we don't know what caused it, and a fire on the Washington Mall, we don't know what caused that. But the fact that there have been so many attacks would seem to indicate that there are people on the ground as well as in the air that are helping to set off and to participate in this terrorist event.
And we're getting some indication from Melinda Murphy in our helicopter. It looks to her, at least, as if the second tower appears to be perhaps buckling or leaning. And I'm going to...
Debris actually falling from the building.
And because we can't see it at this point, just give me a sense of what it looks like there. Are there many people on the street.
The sidewalks, people are calm. I think most people don't really know what's going on. Most people haven't been watching the news.